Hey guys, I'm Shyrshadi. Welcome to StarCraft Breaking the Barriers Episode 10. Today we're going to be looking at a Platinum PvZ sent in to us by SoAoG. Real quick, just going to pull up our Platinum focus goals again. Briefly, it's just macro training, scouting specifically, learning to harass, army control, and micro, camera hotkeys, and decision making. Very in-depth, but also very simple to get started with all of these. We're going to be talking a little bit about all of these as we go through this replay. So, getting into it. And somehow not at the beginning of the replay. I think I forgot to pause it before I started recording. Whoops. Anyway. Gonna speed through the early stages of it just because it's, you've all seen it before. Regular 19 Nexus opener, with a few exceptions. Now SoAoG's gonna send a probe across the map, scout the hatches already taken, go into the main base and scout gas pool. Nexus is on normal time, but he actually gets his second pylon before the second gas, which just finishes his wall, but I actually prefer getting gas first before you do that, just because it's a little bit faster tech. Now he's actually playing very safe, going into a Zealot first with the Mothership Core and Stalker, so he has the ability to deny vision, deny drops, and he has overcharge potential at his front pylon. He's going straight into a robotics facility and getting a sentry out, and he's going to be making a few observers after he gets done with that, getting another gateway, a forge down, just a super safe opener, going up to 4 gateways before he takes a third base, and just trying to play as safe as he can. He actually makes 2 sentries. He's going to drop a Twilight Council down. So just doing quite a bit on 2 bases. But he hasn't really scouted anything specifically to say this is going to be an issue. Now he actually does get in here with his Observer, but he doesn't scout the Evo Chambers and the Roach Warren. Now real quick, I'm going to slow this down so you can take a look at this. When you see the buildings wiggling like this, they are researching. So you know there's going to be some pressure, or at least upgrades on the way. And if he flies around with this Observer, he's going to have a really good indication of what's going on. Now he whoops in Zealots, and he's making an Immortal. And so he's going to have a little bit of an army to defend this third base location, taking a relatively late third for not going after any kind of harassment. But he is going into a very fast Templar Archives, so he's going to have a fast storm available as well. Thing is, though, he sent this Observer across the map, and he really doesn't have any information from it. He doesn't see the army morphing here. He doesn't see the tech here. So, if you're going to build an Observer early, you really need to be mobile with it. Be able to move around, see what's going on. Because 1-1 roaches are very deadly. Especially on scouted ones. So he does knock down these rocks to protect him here. And one other little thing that he does that I really liked, he hasn't done it yet, and I'll actually talk about when he does. So I thought it was about that time. Maybe because I slowed it down. My time was thrown off. He did start a forge very early though, and he's already got +1, so that's a very good thing for him. Just starting +2 now. Here we go. This pylon right here. He actually walls off here a little bit. Now I've personally tried this after I watched this replay. You could actually put 2 gateways here and fully wall this. With one cannon, it's got a little bit of a space to get probes through. But you could hard wall this, which is something I hadn't considered before, and I really like, because what happens is, you knock down these rocks, and you hard wall this. Zerg only has one way to really attack you, and you just put your army here. And until they knock this down, they can't really get over here unless they drop. So just put like a pylon over here so you can see when they knock these rocks down. You can make this be your 4th base, knock these rocks down, make this be your 5th base, and this is just your attack path. I just actually really like what he did there. So, moving on. He does get a cannon over there. He's getting a fast storm. Observer still sitting there. Very minimal scouting information.
Mineral field depleted.
He's got 4 High Templars, and he's going to have storm fairly soon. 4th base on the way for the Zerg player. A little bit later than you would normally see a 4th base come down, but he did delay his 3rd base as well. Hallucinated Phoenix scouts the army coming. He's building a gateway here to increase his forward wall, which I don't particularly like, because you are going to lose it eventually. Of course, I'm assuming he just kind of figured that was going to happen, and the fact that the Zerg kind of has to kill this buys a little bit of time for him. Now, one thing that I'm going to say is he hasn't harassed at all. He only has vision on the lair. He doesn't have vision on... Oh, he actually did scout at some point. So he did see the Roach Warren and Evo Chambers. But he hasn't seen the Hydralisk Den. He doesn't know what the tech looks like. He doesn't know that there's a third base here. He doesn't know if there's a fourth base. So, honestly, as early as he got an observer here, his scouting is really minimal. And he's going into Stalkers because he just sees a ton of Roaches. But he hasn't seen Hydralisks, and Stalkers are not good against Hydralisks. But he does have Storm. He is getting +2. I'd like to see him relocate his Chrono here. From his Temple Archives to his Twilight or his Forge. He's already queued up the next upgrade. Speaking of queuing up, we actually are going to back up because I did miss talking about this. 6-minute probe mark. 44. What happened is our Protoss player is cutting a lot of workers to do all the things that he's doing. So these extra gateways, this Temple Archives, the Forge, he's making one probe at a time instead of queuing up the two. So he's missing a lot of production time. And you see right here, he's actually just not building any workers. Still not building any workers. You can see the production tab. He's just not building workers. And this is a problem because if you're not building your workers, you can't saturate this thing. See, right now, if he'd been building workers this whole time, he would have enough workers to actually transfer. And you see what happens is, if you watch this Nexus here, there's times when it's not producing workers. He just made like 3. Now he's making more. But he's only queuing one probe at a time. He's finally got 2 at a time. There we go. But he's just not been queuing workers at all. Like, at all. And so, you see, he just loses a lot of production time. He did this the whole game. So going back up to... up here. Still doesn't see the Hydralisk Den, still hasn't scouted the bases. And his army right now is he's got some Immortals, Charge Light, Storm, and Stalkers. He's only just started Blink. He's already got a lot of Stalkers. If you're going to be going this heavily into Stalkers, you really need to be getting Blink a little bit faster. So he takes this fight. He's more or less kiting out of Biles. He's doing a good job with his Guardian Shields, casting it when he thinks he's going to need it. But he does take some Bile hits. Doesn't actually lose anything. He does just pop the barrier on his Fat 2 Immortals. Burrow on the way, Looker Den on the way, Tunneling Claws on the way, which is really cute. I don't see very many Zoe getting that very often. But he's just kind of A-moving into this and sitting in a lot of Biles. So that comes back to the army control. He is getting Blink though. Robotics Bay, which is nice. Colossus are actually really good on this map because it's kind of narrow and choky and you could take some really good fights with it. They're actually not terrible versus Lurkers, is the funny thing. Colossus are actually pretty good against Lurkers. So, morphing some Lurkers here. Forward push. Blink is done, not really Blink microing anything. Getting a couple good Storms. Sitting in a lot of Biles, fortunately. But his upgrades are pretty good. He's on 2-1 right now. He does have +2 armor coming. But he actually loses a lot of his army here. If the Zoga decided to push this issue, he could get quite a bit of damage done. He does get a couple more Zealots whipped in, so they're going to buy some time, actually get a little bit of damage done. But, his Lurkers already. A little bit of an A-move into that Lurker, though. So, it did get to go down, because it was just moving in and just not doing anything productive. So, 4th base is up. Another pause to look at the worker count, and it's only 64 workers. So, he doesn't really have any to transfer. He's just transferring off a bunch in his main base. He could transfer some to his natural to be mining here. But he just doesn't really have the worker count he needs yet. He still hasn't even reached full 3-base saturation count at 12:30 into the game. He does have an observer, fortunately, so these roaches are going to be a little bit easier to deal with. Behind this, he still only has, like... Okay, he does have 9 gateways. He never did get the other 3 to go up to 12. But he is going into a second robotics facility, so this is very justified. So depending on however many tech structures you're producing from, is how you decide how you want to take your gateway count. I go up to 12 gateways because I'm a very Archon's Charge Slot Immortal heavy user, so I'm going to have Archons and Zealots being made from gateways regularly, with Immortals being made from the Robo facility. Usually I only have one. If I see a Roach heavy comp or I see Lurker switches, I'll go into 2. But I'm usually just, most of my production comes off gateways, so I'm going to have 12. And when you get to 4th base, I would recommend adding extra gates anyway, just because you're going to be trading, you're going to need to be able to remax very quickly. So having the extra gateways on 4 bases is going to be good. But we're getting a second robotic facility. He's going to be going into double Colossus production, which again I love. I feel like these Roaches could have actually dug in a little bit harder than they did, focused down an Immortal before they backed off. But he is going to play it a little bit safe as a player here. And another gate coming up. Pylons, and Mothership Core moves forward to help defend this position. Takes the gases here, whipping in a ton of High Templar for Archons. But here's what I'm saying though: is he just did a full warp in, and he still has 1,500 minerals that he can't spend because he just doesn't have the gateways, and he is not warping in consistently. So we do have enough available supply to warp in, but not enough gateways to do it. One thing I'd really like to see is a warp prism on the map, just to send around warp in charge lights to run into these bases. Like this new base you could cancel with charge lights. You could put a single zealot there to see when he wants to take that base. At this point, he still hasn't identified any other expansions, so he's just kind of playing super blind right now. He sent out one hallucination earlier that just saw army and then eventually died anyway. But just almost no map vision, no map control, and he hasn't been across the map anyway, other than that observer. He's done 0 counter damage. But he's got the Archon count now, and his army's looking really, really well rounded. Does he have any sentries left? No, unfortunately he did lose all those. He does catch this burrowed roach move, wanting to try to get around. His army's looking really good though. His upgrades are looking really good. He's got 2-2. He has a second forge, but he never actually started 3-3. Just less than ideal. Now this fight he's actually going to take and do a really good job with, because the Zerg is really just trying to A-move. And I think he tried to focus fire the Colossi at one point. So this is actually really smart here. He kills that army and immediately just pushes the issue. The Zerg killed these rocks here because he wanted to send these 10 roaches in here to production and mineral lines, which I think would have been excellent. But he's basically panic F2 to bring his army home because he's desperate to have army to defend this, because he really doesn't have a standing army. Most of his army's in production, and so he's just pushing this issue pretty hard, which is great. But just the decision to counterattack after taking that good of a fight is huge. He was able to get enough upgrades, get enough tech to where he wasn't going to be in a huge amount of trouble. What the Zerg player did that allowed this was his army comp. It was a Roach Hydra heavy army comp that never really got any damage done. If this is Hydra Bane, I'm really pretty sure that SoAoG has a lot harder of a time getting to where he wants to be. But making the Zerg always fight him here is just such a good thing. So he takes down these rocks, he blocks off this path, Zerg keeps attacking him down this direction, and always he can take some good fights just because of the angle which the Zerg player has to attack into him. And the big fight where he was right here, and the Zerg player just kind of commanded into his army a little bit, trying to get to the Colossi before it A-moved, was excellent. He always had an observer over the enemy's army when they took a fight, so he was able to see anything burrowed or otherwise hidden, and he counterattacked after that big fight, so he was able to get to the end of the game. He had 2-2 upgrades. I really would have liked to see him go up to 3-3 with a double forge. I would really like to see some increased probe production, because not having 60 workers at 6 minutes means you can't have 66 workers when your third base is done. So your third base finishes, you transfer 16 to minerals, make 2 more rounds of probes, and you have 3 base saturation. Going up to 22 workers mining on your third base means when your fourth base and the fourth base gas is finished, you grab 6 probes off your natural, click in this gas geyser, -3, click in this gas geyser, and just transfer minerals off your main base to that fourth, and you have full 3 base income plus 8 gases, which is where Protoss wants to be for the tech they need. So double Colossus I really liked. I liked the tech. I liked the choices of army composition based on what he saw, but I really would have liked to see this observer get in on the action. Figure out what he's looking at tech. He didn't scout. This observer has literally been sitting here since he rallied it at the beginning of the game. This was the first observer that came out, and it's been here the entire time. It's done 0 scouting. So, scouting intentionally requires actual scouting. So, move around, get some information, find out what's going on, and you'll be a lot more equipped to handle what's going on. You see, with that many roaches, I would have thrown down a second robotics facility sooner at my third base and just double pump immortals, go into Charge Light Archon and Storm. Get upgrades. Double upgrades are fine. Single upgrades are fine. He ended up with 2-2-1, which is really good still. But he did have a second forge that he's just not utilizing. And all in all, the only other thing I would have said is when you start your 4th base, go ahead and drop a Stargate, because if your opponent does go on to the late game, you're really going to want to get into Tempest production for Broodlords or Void Razor, whatever you choose to use. Void Razor work versus Tempest versus Broodlords rather. They're also really good if they go Corruptor to back up the Broodlords, because it turns out Tempests are not very good versus Corruptors. But that's what Archons and Storm can be for. So it really depends on what the rest of your army comp looks like. I actually go Blink Stalker. Like when I get Charge as my first upgrade off the Twilight Council, I get Blink Stalker immediately after, because if there's a sneaky Muta switch, I want to be ready for that, so I have time to warp Stalkers in to defend until I have a little bit of time to build cannons, and then I just push across the map with Blink Stalker and the rest of my army and put counter pressure on, because ultimately the Mutas are either going to be committed across the map, or the Zerg isn't going to have army. Also, if you see Broodlords and you weren't quite ready, Blink Stalkers are a great way to pick off Broodlords. The problem is they are very bad versus Hydralisks and Lurkers, so it's just something else you have to be careful with. And that's generally why I don't like Stalkers in this matchup, because Hydralisks are the thing right now, and they just kind of die to Hydralisks, because Hydralisks have really good DPS and Stalkers do not really have good DPS. But the range on a Colossus with extended Thermal Lance is the same range as a Lurker, so you actually have a really good option right there. Thanks for hanging out. I do hope the video helps. I do hope it helps SoAoG. Pay attention to your opening build order, your probe production, make sure that's going, and be a little bit more active with your scouting, and I think you'll be really quick in the diamond. I have been Shyrshadi. This is StarCraft Breaking the Barriers. I hope you guys have enjoyed the series so far. We are 10 episodes in. The channel has been growing tremendously, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. If you want to be part of this series, be sure to send me your replays to ShyrshadiSC2@gmail.com, and feel free to check out the social media links in the description below. Thanks and have a great day.